Good morning, everyone, and sorry for the delay. We would like to welcome all of you for this seminar on the online seminar on insights on maintaining or sustaining biodiversity elements and development of policy framework for socio-ecological landscapes in the Himalaya. This is jointly organized by Sikkim University, Department of Zoology, and Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and the Environment, the regional office for Northeast India, which is based out of Gangtok. This is actually the culmination of a project that we worked on, key biodiversity elements and looking at policy framework in the socio-ecological landscape of Sikkim and Darjeeling Himalaya. And we didn't want to just make this into a concluding workshop, but we wanted it to be a seminar where we could get a lot of students, researchers, experts, and people who have been working in similar landscapes from all across the Himalaya and even beyond, to talk about what are how do we maintain and how do we conserve or sustain these biodiversity elements that are found in these very important socio-ecological production landscapes, and what kind of policy frameworks should we talk about, should we put forward, because I think these landscapes are undergoing a lot of challenge. The kind of development trajectory that we are seeing today, being planned today, I think it is the need of the hour that such important life supporting systems are conserved, maintained, and sustained. So with this, objective in mind, we wanted to do this seminar so that we get a lot of people from outside putting in their experience and expertise for us, and also a lot of students and researchers from across the landscape get an idea and probably will also take interest in doing a lot of research in these aspects. If you look at the program, it has got very interesting thematic areas. We talk about nature-based solutions, and we also talk about the policy framework, and we also talk about biodiversity beyond protected areas. One interesting session today will be session number 2, where our local students, students from Gangtok, students from Darjeeling and the area over here who have been registered as PhD students now, will be talking about their work that they did on key biodiversity elements in this socio-ecological production landscape, which actually ultimately led us to do this seminar. So a very warm welcome to Professor Avinash Khare, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sikkim University, Dr. Eklabya Sharma, who's the former DDG of ICIMOD, and also the Vice Chancellor for ATREE Institute of Advanced Studies. Would also like to welcome Professor N. Sathyanarayana, who's the Dean of Life Sciences, Sikkim University, and also Engineer Kireet Kumar, Director of Director of GBPNIHE and Nodal Officer of the National Mission of Himalayan Studies. With this, we will start the inaugural session. And again, I would like to welcome all the speakers who are here today with us and who accepted our invitation and have given their valuable time to be with us today. I would like to also thank all the researchers, all the students, all the young researchers that I can see today participating. So thank you very much for giving us your time and being here with us. And even many of you, even if you are not able to attend all the technical sessions, please do look at the program and please be there for all the interesting sessions which may be of your interest. Please be there with us. And I also similarly request all the experts and all the speakers who we have with us today that if they can, please do come in and provide your valuable feedback, your expertise and your insights in the various talks and technical sessions of the program. With this, I would like to now call upon Professor N. Sathyanarayana, Dean, School of Life Sciences, Sikkim University, to present his inaugural address. Over to you, Dr. Sathyanarayana.
So thank you very much, Dr. Sarla, for this invitation. Dignitaries in the audience, organizers, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very interesting seminar, and this project is one of the very prestigious and an interesting project funded under National Mission on Himalayan Studies. I have been associated with this project since beginning, And I've seen the trajectories and the movements of this project across the time scale of about 3 to 4 years from now. It's a very interesting project because agroforestry in itself is a very interesting biodiversity component. For very long years, we have been talking about the reserve forests, etc., as the main key ingredients of the biodiversity conservation. But agroforestry, as we all know, came in much later, but proved to be one of the very, very critical component of the biodiversity conservation, particularly in the context of the trade-off between different biodiversity elements and the need for the policy paradigms and the management issues. So in this perspective, I think the National Mission on Himalayan Studies envisaged that this, because the very element is unique to different places. Like the agroforestry itself is a very diverse element, and the agroforestry components and the biodiversity elements involved in it is a very dynamic components in the systems. In Sikkim Himalayas particularly, this takes a very different dimension for the simple reason that elsewhere, we believe that the forestry lies within the agricultural ecosystem, and therefore we call it as agroforestry. But in case of Sikkim Himalayas, it's agriculture which lies within the forestry or within the forest. So that gives a completely different flair and a dimension to the whole issues. And it has also built in a very, very intricately into the social system of the people of Sikkim and Darjeeling Himalayas. The various ecosystem services, including the pollinators, etc., which are very, very important for the whole management of the biodiversity itself, or the sustainability of the biodiversity itself, has been very intricately woven with the agricultural ecosystems in Sikkim and Darjeeling Himalayas. So considering these very importance, and also the need for developing a sustainable policy kind of issue or policy documents for keeping this in a very lively manner, the National Mission on Himalayan Studies funded this project under the leadership of Sikkim University, and also the Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and Environment about 3 to 4 years back. The team, as I know, has done excellent work. Over the period of 3 to 4 years, they have not only studied different agroecological systems in Sikkim Himalayas, including the tea gardens and the pastoral systems. They have also studied the various elements which are actually affected with the change in the biodiversity components, biodiversity structure, especially the land uses, the climate change issues, etc. These are all have been built into the studies. So the whole project has looked into the various aspects of the agroforestry, the issues of biodiversity, and the outcome based on certain recent developments and what we need to do in terms of the policy. So a lot of key findings have come out, I'm sure, from this project, which apparently needs to be disseminated to all the stakeholders. I understand the purpose of this seminar is to do that, to share these informations and arrange a dialogue between different stakeholders, and while preparing the policy document, involve both national and international experts to vet it and to make it more stronger recommendation for the ministry. So I see this as a very noble initiative, and the outcome of this project after this seminar, as well as the complete policy document being released, is going to be a very, very critical document for the ministry itself. And this team's contribution will go a very, very long way in actually shaping the agroforestry of the Sikkim Himalayan region towards the conservation priorities, as well as developing a management policies. My only request to the team is that whatever the outcome that you have kind of developed in terms of the agroforestry and then conservation priorities, please make a gradational recommendation for all these the priorities that you have identified, and a clear action points what need to be done with all these things for a conservation initiatives, as well as taking it forward further, and how to manage it in a much better way. With these few words, I wish the Sarala calling Dr. Bhoj Kumar Acharya and the entire team a great success for the seminar, and also congratulate them for an excellent doing in this project. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sathyanarayana, for your insightful address. Now, I would like to request Engineer Kireet Kumar, who is the Director of GBPNIHE and the Nodal Officer of NMHS, who is also a special guest for this seminar and inaugural session, to please present his address.
So thank you very much, Sarlaji, for inviting me and all organizers. The chief guest of the session, Professor Khare, Dr. Eklabya Sharma, the keynote speaker, then Dr. Sathyanarayana also from the Sikkim University, and all distinguished guests, and a long list of participants, very eminent people from India and abroad. On behalf of the Institute and on behalf of NMHS, I thank Dr. Acharya for organizing this event as a closing event also for his project, which was sanctioned to him under the NMHS. And when we started thinking of any project in NMHS, the National Mission on Himalayan Studies, I don't know, many people may not be aware of this scheme in this forum. So I will briefly tell few things about the scheme. Actually, this National Mission on Himalayan Studies was launched by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India in 2015-16 as a very special mission for Himalaya, realizing that Himalaya is so important for the country. And a lot of information is not really available, or even if it is available, it is not available easily to others on Himalayan region. And there are many issues which need to be solved in the Himalayas. So they said that we will have a separate mission for Himalayan studies, focusing particularly on the vision of supporting and enhancing the ecological, natural, cultural, and socio-economic capital assets and values of the Himalaya. With this vision, the mission was launched, and the idea was to sustain to conduct studies towards sustaining the natural and human capital of the Himalayan region. So with its mission actually is completed nearly 7 years now, and more than 171 projects were implemented in the Himalayan region, right, in all 11 states and 2 UTs, Union Territories of the country. And besides that, we also had 175 fellowships given to the Himalayan researchers for conducting their PhD or conducting the projects on the important issues of Himalaya. So broadly, the 4 objectives were addressed in the mission. First one was of course, to create the scientific and traditional knowledge in the Himalayan region and put it somewhere in a portal or in a database so that it can be utilized for many purposes, including policy making. Then second objective was also to strengthen the technological innovations in the Himalayan region. There are many issues in Himalayas. For example, water shortage is one, conservation of and mainstreaming of biodiversity, which is the topic of today's seminar, also is one of the issue. Livelihood is a big issue in the Himalayas. And then also we have some infrastructure related issues. So all these issues were involved in this deciding this objective of technological innovation. Then we have third objective of science policy practice correct. This is really critical actually. If you see, I'm also seeing that one of the objective of this seminar also is to see how we can create this correct. This is also one of the objective of the mission. And finally, to actually work from pilots, prototypes, pilots to the upscaled model on different issues of Himalaya, priority thematic areas. So we work actually for 7 thematic areas, which include water, which include livelihood, which also includes biodiversity conservation and management, and also skill building. And 3 new areas like infrastructure development, connectivity issues, and also the hazardous waste and handling the waste are the other areas where we work in the Himalaya. So this is one of the project which was sanctioned to Sikkim University and Professor Acharya, particularly on the values and practices of Himalayan, particularly the biodiversity related issues in the Sikkim Himalaya. And this is really a very timely event also in that sense that the government of India is now considering to develop the ecosystem accounting procedure as a mainstream for the mountain region. So that SE framework they are trying to at least develop at the initial stage starting from ecosystem, extent and conditioning, and later stage maybe going for the accounting and valuation. So this mainstreaming the elements is one of the major area in this whole framework, where we want to do some sort of evaluation for these ecosystem services and the values provided by the Himalayan biodiversity elements. And also the second issue, which is also highlighted, only yesterday we had a workshop concluded on the national mission, which was actually for monitoring the different projects, actually, which included also the 9 projects from biodiversity conservation and management from across the Himalayan region. There also the issue was raised regarding the landscape approach. And we have Dr. Sharma here, who is an expert, a renowned expert in this field. So this is really actually needed not only for biodiversity conservation, but also for even for the spring water management, which is being talked now a lot through different reports. So this landscape approach is for not only for studying something, but also for managing and or maybe the utilizing the values or the natural resources will be very critical. And as I have gone through the program for 2 days, in this 2 days work international seminar, I found that there are people who can really give very good recommendations and very good outcomes. And whatever outcomes are there from the project of Dr. Acharya also will be discussed during these 2 sessions. And I will request the organizers as well as the people who will be drafting and writing the recommendations of these workshops, please do share this with NMHS also, and also see that how it can be actually transmitted into the main policy making process of the country as well as for the state. So with these words, I thank you again, the organizers, and also particularly Dr. Acharya, Dr. Sarla, for inviting me to this important meeting. And I wish all success to this event, and also look forward to work more on these lines under the NMHS in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, Engineer Kireet Kumar. And also, as part of the project, we are all, and on behalf of Dr. Bhoj also and the team members, we are very grateful for the support that we got from the National Mission of Himalayan Studies, and where we could do this project, implement this project. Besides the challenges provided by COVID, we could achieve a lot. And this is the culmination of that project and the support that we got from the mission. So thank you very much. Next, I would like to request Dr. Bhoj Acharya, who is the Associate Professor, Department of Zoology, Sikkim University, to please introduce our keynote speaker. Over to you, Dr. Bhoj.
Thank you, ma'am. So very good morning to the esteemed guests, the speakers and participants who have joined virtually today to this 2 days international seminar on insights on maintaining, sustaining biodiversity elements and development of appropriate policy framework for socio-ecological landscapes in the Himalaya. It is my great privilege to introduce the keynote speaker for today, Dr. Eklabya Sharma. Dr. Sharma is one of the tallest figures among the Himalayan scientists, and we are very honored to have him here today in this seminar as a keynote speaker. Dr. Sharma is currently a chairperson of the Scientific Advisory Committee of the GBPNIHE National Institute of Himalayan Environment, which is an autonomous institute of the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, with a headquarters at Uttarakhand, Almora in Uttarakhand. He is also a policy advisor at the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, popularly known as ICIMOD, which is an intergovernmental organization of 8 Hindu Kush Himalayan countries having headquarters at Kathmandu, Nepal. So Dr. Sharma has held various prestigious positions in India and outside. Dr. Sharma was the Vice Chancellor of the ATREE School of Advanced Studies, New Delhi. And before joining ATREE University, he served the ICIMOD at Kathmandu in various positions and then retired from there as a Deputy Director General. Before joining the ICIMOD, he was the regional head of the Sikkim Regional Center of the GBPNIHE National Institute of Himalayan Environment, Gangtok, Sikkim. In fact, he was the one who founded the Sikkim Regional Center of the GBPNIHE National Institute. So academically, Dr. Eklabya Sharma is an ecologist having over 35 years of experience on sustainable development. His expertise are on biodiversity conservation, natural resources, watershed, ecosystem and transboundary landscape management, biogeochemical cycling in ecosystems, climate change impact assessments, adaptation and nature-based solutions, and resilience building. He was involved in organizing and guiding the 5-year Hindu Kush Himalaya assessment process that engaged more than 350 scientists globally. And now the report is available as 2019 Hindu Kush Himalaya assessment report, which has been recently published by Springer Nature. Apart from that, Dr. Sharma was the chief editor of the Journal of Field Research, which was published by Sikkim Science Society, and he also served the Journal of Tropical Ecology. He was also the Asia Regional Editor of the Mountain Research and Development Journal, which is a journal published by International Mountain Society, Switzerland, and Dr. Sharma was also one of the directors of that society. Additionally, Dr. Sharma contributed to many global discourses, including promoting the mountain agenda in United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Convention on Biological Diversity, and Sustainable Development Goal processes, and helped to close science gaps on Hindu Kush Himalayan mountain knowledge in IPCC and IPBES processes. In both these IPBES and IPCC reports, mountains are now well highlighted. So Dr. Sharma has many recognition and accolades in his name. He was elected as the Fellow of the Indian National Science Academy, New Delhi in 2014, which is one of the highest recognition for any Indian scientist. Additionally, he is also the fellow of the National Academy of Sciences, Allahabad, since 1999, and he's also the fellow of the National Institute of Ecology of India since 1994. Dr. Sharma also received many national and international awards, which includes the Young Scientist Award of the Indian National Science Academy, which was awarded to him in 1988. The Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change Government of India awarded him with Visishta Vaigyanik Puraskar, that is Eminent Scientist Award, in 1995. And he was also awarded with the Honorable Mention Paper Award by the Soil and Water Conservation Society, USA, in 1999. And in 2017, Sikkim University and in collaboration with the government of Sikkim jointly awarded the Development of the Modern India Award, and he was conferred with the Social Status Award for his contribution on the environment in 2004. So at the personal front also, we find Dr. Sharma as having a very pleasant personality, very cheerful person, very humble and an approachable person. Sir, it is a proud moment for all of us to have you here today, and I, on behalf of the organizing committee of both the Institute, Sikkim University, as well as ATREE of this organizing this seminar, would like to express my gratitude to you for accepting our invitation with a short notice for delivering the keynote address despite your busy schedules. We thank you immensely, and we are very confident that all the participants will be highly benefited with your vast experience working with the mountains, your expertise, your care for the mountains, and your wisdom. So now, without further delay, I would like to invite you to deliver the address. Thank you. Thank you so much, and over to you, sir, Dr. Eklabya Sharma.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhoj Acharya, for a very elaborate introduction. Professor Avinash, Khare, Vice Chancellor of Sikkim University, Engineer Kireet Kumar, Director, GBPNIHE National Institute of Himalayan Environment, Professor Sathyanarayana, Dr. Sarala Kaling, the Regional Director of ATREE Regional Office, Gangtok, Dr. Bhoj Acharya, Dr. Sunita Pradhan. I'm extremely pleased and I express my gratitude to the organizers, both ATREE and Sikkim University, for inviting me to deliver a keynote address on this very important topic. Today. I'm very happy to hear from both Engineer Kireet Kumar and Dr. Sarala Kaling about the project implemented under National Mission of Himalayan Studies by the team in Sikkim University and ATREE. And today's keynote address, in fact, will be in a way that I would like to see that all the policy frameworks, the work done from the team is actually not remaining at the local level, not only in India, but it is actually going to a much broader and wider region. That's why the participants, like professors and very senior scientists, from neighboring and countries and internationally working in this region are also participating in the meeting. So that is really a very important thing. When we talk about Sikkim and Darjeeling Himalaya, as this project has worked on biodiversity related elements and landscape, very much looking into ecological landscape, I think the lessons learned, the learnings from this has to reach to global level. So in this context, because what mountains are facing as a mountain community, mountain landscapes are facing in terms of global seclusion a little bit, I think for that reason, I think our work needs to be more highlighted and reach at the global community level. So in my keynote speech, I will try to bring the mountain context, global mountain context. I'll talk about the Hindu-Kush Himalayan region, come to the region and talk about the issues of socio-ecological dimension very much, and look into the interlinkages very much on the challenges of conservation and economic development. Some of these are quite important. So keeping these in mind, let me start by some of the highlights as mountains globally and how this work is very relevant in this seminar. So first of all, I think mountain biodiversity is of global importance and is a global issue. I think this is the first thing which we all have to acknowledge. So mountains cover around 22% of the global area, terrestrial area, 22%, and about 1 billion people live in the mountains. So that is 13% of the global population actually lives in the mountains. But what happens is that mountains, goods and services which it is providing, more than 50% of the global population is benefited from this. I think this is a very important element, but yet people do not know much about the mountains. And another very important thing is that mountains support 25% of the terrestrial biodiversity. So all of us are going to talk here about mountain biodiversity, but globally, if you look at all the terrestrial biodiversity, 25%, 1/4 actually comes from the mountains. Then we have to also see, in terms of biodiversity, talk about global hotspots. So there are 36 hotspots. Out of that, if you look at the mountain, 50% of those biodiversity global hotspots are actually in mountains. So you can imagine how important it is. Another very important element of mountain, see, more than 80% of food security, actually comes from 20 plant species. And out of that, 6 species are actually originated in mountains. They are maize, potato, barley, sorghum, tomatoes, apples. So you can see how important the socio-ecological related issues of mountains, cultural issues of mountains, foods, and the global goods and services are linked. So when we look at that, so it is vividly seen very much that the society, the mountains, the culture, and the global goods and services provided by them are enormous and very important. So what are the major mountain systems in the world? There are so much, but I think to mention few of them: Himalaya. This is the tallest mountain systems and the biggest mountain systems in the world. And one of the astronauts visiting ICIMOD said, from the satellite, as we were passing through, this is only one place which we can see from our eyes, the topography, and we can say this is Himalaya. You can see this is how tall, how important this massiveness of this Himalaya is. Then Andes is another, Alps, Carpathians, Caucasus. There are so many mountains region which are very important, unique, and they are providing those services to the humankind. Now, coming to the Himalayan region where this discussion is happening, the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. Actually, 8 countries share the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. It's a huge mountain systems, and then 4.2 million square kilometer area is actually covered by this. So Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, India, Myanmar, Nepal, and Pakistan actually share this Hindu Kush Himalayan region. And major mountain system between in this Hindu Kush Himalayan region which are covered are Hindu Kush mountains in Afghanistan, then Karakoram, Pamir, Pakistan, and adjoining areas, Tibetan Plateau, Himalaya, Southwest Mountains of China, in Yunnan, then and parts of Sichuan, then northern Myanmar mountains, Chittagong hill tracts. So these are all these mountains which are actually different mountains which are then part of the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. 240 million people live in the mountains, and 1.9 billion people are in the river basin. So you can imagine almost 1/4 of the humanity is already served by the Hindu Kush Himalayan region in terms of ecosystem service. But if we look at the food security, 3 to 4 billion people are catered from here. So almost half of humanity is alone catered by the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. So 10 major rivers actually originate in this region. Now, in my introduction, Dr. Bhoj Acharya talked about the Hindu Kush Himalayan Comprehensive Assessment Report. In that assessment report, some of the findings which talks about biodiversity are quite important and important for this group to know. So about 70 to 80% of original habitat in the biodiversity hotspots, there are 4 biodiversity hotspots of the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, are actually already lost compared to 1500 century. So you can see we have only left with 20 to 30% of what we had almost 500 years ago. So this is what 5 to 600 years ago. So this is very important information. So what we have, we need to really conserve, balance, maintain, and make best use of that. 1/4 of the endemic species in the Indian Himalayan region could be wiped out by 2100. The way the anthropogenic pressures and other pressures, the climatic impacts are happening. So the endemic species, which is very exclusive to this region, might disappear, 1/4 of them. What we have now. So 60 to 85% of the rural population in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region are directly or indirectly dependent on biodiversity for their subsistence. So many people are poor, and for their livelihoods, I think there comes from the biodiversity. And for the scientists who are, and the researchers who are listening to this, one of the good news and bad news is that there was this research from 1998 to 2008 review, and in that 350 new species were found, 353 new species were found in those 10 years from Eastern Himalayan region alone, about 35 new species per year. That means this area region is still unexplored, not discovered. So I think it's a good news for many researchers to go and do discover, but the bad news is that we do not still know so many information which would have been otherwise used for the humankind. So this is quite important. Now, let me come to the Indian Himalayan region. So Hindu Kush Himalayan region, we have talked. So about 11% of the Indian Himalayan region actually contributes to the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. So you can see it's only 11%, but the population wise, 36% of the Hindu Kush Himalayan population actually comes from the Indian Himalayan region. So the Indian Himalayan region is highly populated. So here the nature human relationship is going to be quite important. In many cases, we might be overshooting the carrying capacity very much, and that's why the impact and negative impact and degradations are happening much faster. So in the Indian Himalayan region, we have 11 states and union territories, and 2 states like West Bengal and Assam have their hill districts as part of the Indian Himalayan region. So this is the region which is quite important. Now, coming to some of the very important drivers of change and major issues of the Himalaya, which is also true for the Indian Himalayan region and also very much true for Sikkim and Darjeeling part of the Indian Himalayan region. One is poverty and migration. So you see lots of youth are migrating out of the mountains for jobs, and many people in the mountains are poorer than the plain areas. And we have seen lots of drivers of change, some of them to mention here. Climate change is very important. It is now everybody knows. Land use, land cover change has been also a major issue. Then infrastructure development like roads. So really looking into environmental impact assessment and catering to the requirements of biodiversity, landscape, ecosystem services. I think somehow they were left out. Then urbanization in mountains is becoming a huge trend, whether it is Simla or it is Mussoorie or it is Darjeeling or it's Shillong or it is Gangtok. You can see that very much. So how we address that issues, then globalization, I think is also helping. Access is increasing, ICT is coming to the mountains. So there are positive things also, not only the negative things, but how we are using the positive things in a productive way is a big challenge. Out migration, and then of course, leaving women behind. The trend that we see in Uttarakhand, the trend that we see in Nepal. I think how the feminization of natural resource management is taking place, and what are the things that we should have. Gender sensitivity, gender related issues in such situations are going to be critical and important. Now, with all of these happening, the good news part is that this SKS comprehensive assessment report has come. It is published by Springer Nature in 2019. So the gap of knowledge, which is one of the major issues, is already to some extent, there is a basis to start and fill the gaps. So this report provides that. So there is a lot of gap in knowledge, like there is consistency in data, comparable data are not there, representative data are not there, long-term monitoring is not happening. So this is a big challenge. So the assessment reports provide some inputs. Transboundary and common regional issues are also quite important. Even if we are talking about Sikkim and Darjeeling, we are on one side in Bhutan, other side in we have Nepal, and if you go further down, then we also have Bangladesh. Then of course, if you go further north, from Sikkim side directly straight, then it is China. So you can imagine these are there are a lot of transboundary issues. But another big challenge is the human capacities, and the institutions' capacities are quite different in different countries. How we balance that so that issues are consistently and uniformly addressed along the transboundary corridors, transboundary landscapes. I think this is quite important. Now coming to the Indian Himalayan region's contribution to India, because now we are talking about Himalaya, Indian Himalayan region, but as a nation, how the Indian Himalayan region is contributing. So to look at some of the parameters. So population 486 lakhs, about only 4% of the population of India is in the Indian Himalayan region. Land mass about 16%. Ethnic groups 170 are there, so that represents 30% of the national ethnic groups. Then forest cover, if we look at 250,000 kilometers square area, so 36% of the forest is actually in the Indian Himalayan, in the Himalayan region of India. Then biodiversity, if we just look at angiosperms, 8,000, it is 44% of the total angiosperms in the country comes from the Himalaya. Endemic species, 2,400 species in the Himalayas, that is representing 60%. Water flow budget from the Himalayan rivers is 63% for the India part, very much. And the glacial systems, if we look at 100% of India, glaciers are in the Himalayan region, and all the 100% of the alpine conditions are in the Himalayan region. So this is very, very critical and important in the context what we see. So two prominent mountain systems in India are Himalaya, including Northeast India, but also we should not forget about the Western Ghats. So that also we should keep in our mind while we think of the Indian national policy frameworks on mountains. So we should have a holistic approach when we talk about national level. And then when we move to the Himalayan region, then the Himalayan states, union territories, and the hill districts of West Bengal and Assam, then we have to then look into very much in the national level. So now socio-ecological systems, before we look at that, I think what is very important in Sikkim and Darjeeling region, see vegetation zones and dominant forest types, if we look at. So interestingly, below 1,000, we see tropical zone, then subtropical zone, we get tropical forest, subtropical forest, then warm temperate region, then we have different types of forest, then cool temperate, then we have another, then subalpine region and alpine. So you have a whole series of landscapes in this region representing a mini Himalaya, mini mountains of the world. So that means what we do here is could be a model for showcasing and representing the issues elsewhere. So this is quite important, and we should remember this very much. Now, looking at the socio-ecological systems, I think of the Sikkim, Darjeeling, and maybe also Eastern Himalayan region, I think we have to really look into the farming systems. So farming systems, and I think I remember Professor, while Dean was talking, he talked about pastoralism. So one very important thing, if you look at pastoralism, then agro-pastoralism, then middle hill farming systems where you have terrace farming and agroforestries, then commercial crop-based systems. Then in the eastern, further east, if you go, then the shifting cultivation comes. And nowadays you see in pastoralism, agro-pastoralism, and even in other areas, tourism is becoming a very important element. So if we are able to have a responsible ecotourism linked with these socio-ecological systems, not only the incentives and the resources from the local level, but the resources from outside level generated could be also used for the management or sustaining the ecological systems in the mountains. So when we look at the socio-ecological systems and farming, I think the interfaces are very important. So here, social systems, ecological systems, and livelihoods, they are very much linked, and there are interfaces amongst them. And here, livestock-based farming, we see staple crop-based farming, mixed farming, where both livestock and crops are coming, commercial systems. So in all of these, the new trend for more conservation and economic balanced approach, I think mountain niche crops and products are emerging, and they are going to be quite important. Dr. Sarala Khaling talked about nature-based solutions. I think nature-based livelihood development are going to be key for the future if we want to really have this socio-ecological system intact. So in that context, we have to see. So in all of these, entrepreneurship and conservation are going to be critical and important. So in this, how to balance economic development using natural resources sustainably is going to be the approach that we have to see. So one thing that I can tell you is traditional crops like millets and all these papar, we call it, all these buckwheats, slowly they are disappearing. But if we are able to link it with tourism and provide local menu, those traditional crops, the agrobiodiversity of those crops can be maintained in longer phase, because you are providing business model to the traditional systems. So this is quite important. And the trend is towards that, moving traditional crops and practices are disappearing. And if we are converting those traditional crops into high value, then it can remain and it can move forward. And then we have to bring business orientation, entrepreneurship. We cannot believe and say that our farmers will remain poor and they should remain poor. They should actually develop with the solutions from the nature, with the products from the nature, and with the incentives of conserving those resources in nature. This is a very important. And when we are talking about socio-ecological systems, I think diversification is very, very important. Diversification in livelihoods, diversification in product use are quite important. So just to give you an example, which you can also see from large cardamom farming in Taplejung, eastern Nepal, which was developed over the years. So the diversification of products from a particular crop or mixed cropping would provide resilience, would provide capacity for the farmers to absorb the shocks, like the chirke purke viral disease in large cardamom, or the hailstorm issue for large cardamom, all those whenever it comes. So to give you an example, see, large cardamom, of course, is cultivated normally for capsules, high value product, a very, very ecologically mountainous product. But what people are doing now to diversify, the pseudo stems are used to make artisans. They are making local products like mats and like that. So that that can go into tourism, and the additional money can be brought. And so even if the cardamom is not produced so much, that can also bring some resources for the household. Then cardamom can be cultivated with kiwi fruit, which is sown very nicely in Taplejung area. So that also diversifies. If 1 year cardamom is not doing, the kiwi will give the economic return. And sometimes if kiwi doesn't work, then cardamom could give. So this is how you diversify and you reduce the risk very much for the farmers. Then honeybees, integrate honeybees, it will bring pollination, increase the yield, but also bring additional income or bring nutritious honey for the families of the mountain people. Then of course, spice garden tourism is also emerging and coming. So this is how diversification can certainly help. Now, we also have to look into very much the outside protected areas. I very much believe that what this project is talking about, biodiversity conservation outside protected areas. So why the rationale is also given in their concept paper. So the issue is the new paradigm shift that we have to make in conservation. Just conserving within protected area is not sufficient. It is only 13% of the global terrestrial area which is in protected area. So if we are just putting effort for 13% area, so we may not be able to conserve as the pressures are increasing. So the approach, which is also mentioned in this project, is agricultural landscapes where the conservation preservation and development can be done is much, I think, going to have a broader impact. So 38% of land cover globally, terrestrial cover, is under agriculture landscape. So in that context, focusing and developing methodologies, skills, approaches for conservation in agricultural landscapes are going to be critical and very, very important. I congratulate both ATREE and Sikkim University for taking this approach. And I'm very, very glad that I think this is a new era. The paradigm shift has to happen for conservation in those areas. So now, when we talk about agriculture landscapes, most prominent agriculture landscape, if we look at the Darjeeling and Sikkim area, is the agroforestry. And in agroforestry, I think it is very critical. I had done lots of work. So many PhD students worked in Sikkim with me in agroforestry systems. And I think that is a very important system. Many of them provide nitrogen fixing species, which enhances, increases, accelerates the biogeochemical cycling. Also then enhances phosphorus, which is not easily available to the plants associates by these nitrogen fixers. So there are many papers one can read and understand. But overall, what I would like to say, these agroforestry systems are excellent providers of provisional, cultural, regulatory, and supporting ecosystem services. So it's ideal. And when I say this, then the biodiversity is imbibed with this both regulation and supportive services, but also biodiversity is implied with other two services, cultural. Many of the biodiversity products are culturally rich, culturally important, cultural value. And of course, provisional medicinal plants, many food items which comes from biodiversity are giving provisional services. So products from agroforestry provisioning, we get fruit, firewood, medicine, timber, fodder, food crops. All of these also bring income, livelihoods, income to the local people. So it's amazing. Agroforestry, why we should enhance. The other is supporting and regulatory services. So soil fertility. So many people, we talk about soil fertility. Now Sadhguru is talking about, see, we talk about climate change, but we forget about this soil health and soil. So soil fertility is provided by agroforestry. So the new discourse in India by Sadhguru is on soil health. So soil fertility is very important, and agroforestry provides that very much. Soil erosion protection, shade and moisture conservation is provided by this thing in a very lean period when water is going to be a very scarce, and water is going to be a critical factor in that. Agroforestry provides conservation, and it actually reserves the moisture and creates a microclimate for a good crop growth. And then biodiversity enrichment. Apart from the plant, then it provides biodiversity for mammals, for agroforestry for birds, for butterflies, and whatnot. So this is also a very good habitat. And that also provides opportunity for income, local tourism, and like that can happen. And then carbon sequestration. So normal agriculture and agroforestry, you have a huge carbon sequestration. That means you are also providing the support to the global climate change and global climate mitigation effort. So I'm coming towards the end as my time, I have a few minutes. So when we look at the socio-ecological landscapes in each of the types at the ecological belt, right from tropical to the alpine condition, then there might be in a given small landscapes mosaic of systems. So you may find 1, 2, 3 or combination of many of these, like forest in a given landscape you'll have. You might have a monastic or a religious forest, which has a different connotations. You have pastures, wetlands, rivers, rain-fed agriculture, terraced agriculture, irrigated, agroforestry, horticulture, all these are combined. And there is a combination of these very much. So in that context, we have to really see how those mosaics are managed. So for that, I think resilient mountain landscapes or resilient mountain villages could be an approach that could be adopted. And I think ICIMOD is working on resilient mountain villages. And I think in the landscape also, we can, if we are able to bring the resilience to look at the climate-related challenges, socio-economic challenges, and future scenarios and actions, I think resilience development is quite critical and important. So in this, if you look at the landscape level, then climate resilience, we have to see in the farming systems, I mentioned already, water, energy, then socioeconomic resilience, then it comes about the gender-related issues. It talks about economic development of high-value entrepreneurship, food crop production, all those. Then about the institution itself. So there are many institutions in mountains which could be also used for resilience building. Then, of course, the future, the digital era, the insurance system, the systems which can show the future. So all, if they are combined together, then suddenly it will bring a lot of benefits to the mountain people, and the holistic approach of resilience building adaptation could be addressed. And while doing that with the approach of agroforestry, I think mitigation effort to some extent can be also contributed by mountains. Finally, I think we have to also see transboundary relationship. We cannot work in isolation. So I am very glad with the organizers here, both ATREE and this bringing Nepal experience, bringing other international experience and sharing, because ultimately it is the transboundary cooperation, because Himalaya is one big ecosystem, and all small ecosystems within bigger Himalayan ecosystems, if we work in tandem consistently, then only the bigger Himalayan system can exist, coexist, and it can maintain and it can provide the longevity in terms of ecological services and biodiversity services. So in that context, transboundariness, transboundary cooperation, regional cooperation are very, very important, and we need to take forward. Finally, looking into India, the Indian Himalayan region, I think what we have to see, there are many policy frameworks already at the national level. We have to see what is the mountain specificity in those policy frameworks, and how those policy frameworks which are at the national level, whether it is for forests, for agriculture, for rivers, for people, for ethnic communities, societies, the development, and they can be having mountain specificity. I think that is important. So in this line, I am very happy to see there is an initiative by Government of India, many initiatives, that National Mission on Himalayan Studies is trying to fill the void of data, information, bring evidences to actually meet those challenges. And this project, which is being discussed today and tomorrow, is also one of that, which will contribute to this bigger, larger mission of the Indian Himalayan region. So I'm very glad. So this then feeds into the national level policy, and then I think at the state level also, then it will percolate from the national level. But I would suggest that at the state level and districts level also, then the outcome of these results are shared by Dr. Bhoj Acharya and Dr. Sarala Khaling, so that they are also used already from two directions, from the national as well as from the local level. Another very important mission is National Mission on Sustaining Himalayan Ecosystem. Department of Science and Technology, Government of India is doing, and then I am also in the process of discussing this comprehensive assessment report, which ICIMOD published from Springer Nature. I think we have to go deeper within India. So Engineer Kireet Kumar is here, and I think through Ministry of Environment, Forest and Ministry of Science and Technology, I think we should be able to have such a 3 to 4 years of comprehensive assessment from for the Indian Himalayan region from those, and then we can pull all the scientific communities under different sections of the assessment, and then we can have much deeper knowledge evidences for future actions and future scenarios. Then Niti Aayog, very closely working with ICIMOD earlier, also has produced 5 reports, and Engineer Kireet Kumar talked about the springs. So out of those 5 reports, tourism, skill development, springs, shifting cultivation, data management, repository and sharing. and GBPNIHE Institute is responsible for data management repository and sharing for the Indian Himalayan region. So you can imagine what an important reports have already come and how we make those reports useful in the policy framework among the states, districts, and at the national level. And then finally, I think we should make use, again, coordinated by NITI Aayog, the Himalayan States Regional Council for Sustainable Development in Indian Himalayan region. All chief secretaries of the Himalayan states, UTs, and the hill districts of 2 states are involved in this discussion with NITI Aayog, where Dr. Saraswat, member of NITI Aayog, is coordinating with the vice chair of NITI Aayog, with the chief secretaries of the mountain states. And we should make use of such research findings, of such projects, through such forums, presentations, and like that. And then finally, the Chief Minister's Conclave of the Himalayan States is another forum where I think we can have policy inputs. I'm not going into details of each departments and like that, but I thought as a keynote speaker, I give you a broader horizon of opportunities and avenues where all these policies could be taken into consideration. I have exactly completed my time of 40 minutes for keynote. I think it is 38 minutes. Finally, I would like to thank the organizers very much for giving me this opportunity. I very much look forward, as I am also involved with the GBPNIHE National Institute of Himalayan Environment as the chair of the Scientific Advisory Committee, that all the reports which are culminating from such projects, we try to bring and try to see if we are able to bring some key messages out of it for the benefit of policies making for the national level, for the states would be very much important. I feel Sikkim University is a very great partner, and we should always take privilege. In Sikkim, we have a central university, and this is a great privilege to have, and many good researchers. So this project itself demonstrates how a professional organization like ATREE is working with a hardcore research university, and then trying to escalate the findings through students through a very good networking. So I would like to end here and thank Sikkim University, the Vice Chancellor himself, and my colleagues, and then also Dr. Sarara Kaling, and all the people who are in ATREE, including Professor Bawa, and everybody. Thank you very much. I'm really privileged, and you can count on me for any inputs in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sharma, for your great insights. And we are here in the same landscape now, and we hope to be interacting more with you and benefiting from all your experience, your global, regional, and local experience, from your expertise, and also from the links that you have with the government and the government priorities, not only for India, but also from the region, from Bhutan, from Nepal, because I think being part of this transboundary landscape, it will be very beneficial for us to be able to know what the other neighboring countries are also planning, what their policies are, and we get to learn more. Thank you so much for spending time with us and giving us your very, very valuable insights. And now we come to the address by the chief guest, Professor Avinash Khare, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Sikkim University. So, sir, I'm very grateful that you have given us your time, your busy from your busy schedule, and you're with us for this inauguration session. So I would like to welcome you to please deliver your address. Thank you. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you. Good morning, or rather good afternoon to all of you. Dr. Eklabya Sharma, former Deputy Director General, ICIMOD, Nepal, who's also the keynote speaker for today's session. Engineer Kireet Kumarji, Director Govind Pallab Pant, National Institute of Himalayan Environment, Nodal Officer, National Mission on Himalayan Studies, Almora, Uttarakhand, who's a special guest today. Professor N. Sathyanarayana, Dean School of Life Sciences, Sikkim University, Registrar, Finance Officer, Librarian, Controller of Examination, Deans of Schools of Studies of Sikkim University, PIs of the project, Dr. Bhoj Acharya, Associate Professor and Head of the Department of Zoology, Sikkim University, and Dr. Sarala Khaling, Regional Director, ATREE Regional Office, Northeast India. Invited speakers from various national and international organizations, teachers and scientists from the university and other organizations, students, researchers, and all participants, those who are present here. On behalf of Sikkim University, I welcome you all to this two-day international seminar on insights on maintaining, sustaining biodiversity elements and development of appropriate policy framework for socio-ecological landscape in the Himalayas. We organized as part of a national mission on Himalayan studies, NMHS, the acronym, Government of India funded collaborative research project implemented by Sikkim University and Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and the Environment, ATREE, during January 20th, 21st, 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, I am happy to note that a large grant collaborative research project was granted by the NMHS to Sikkim University and ATREE, Eastern Himalayan, during January 2018, and the same got completed successfully. I understand that was one of the largest projects granted to our university. I'm really thankful to NM, National Mission on Himalayan Studies, for giving financial support. Additionally, 2 more NMHS funded projects has already been completed by the faculties of Sikkim University. As we all know, that India has home to nearly 80% of global biodiversity on just 2.3% of global land area. However, we do not know enough about our biodiversity or wildlife or its values, especially in the Himalayan or mountain ecosystems. Whenever we talk about biodiversity, we generally think about forests and protected areas because we often think that the majority of biodiversity is maintained by the protected areas and reserved forests. However, my interaction with the project teams gave me a clear idea that human modified landscapes such as agricultural systems also play an important role in maintaining regional biodiversity. It also provides livelihood supports for large population. The biodiversity of the agricultural landscape is very important to maintain the organic nature of the system and ensure food security. This is very important for the areas like Sikkim, which is declared a completely organic state. It means that these unique and diverse ecosystems are important in terms of their economic values as well. Considering the large-scale changes, including the developmental activities happening in Sikkim region, protection of such important landscapes is very important, especially for the Sikkim Darjeeling region. In this way, I believe that this project was focused on biodiversity outside protected areas, especially in the agricultural lands, and the findings would have significant contribution to the entire Himalayan range. I came to know from project team that this project involved a team of around 22 people, including PIs, researchers, and field assistants. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to congratulate both PIs, Dr. Bhoj and Dr. Sarala Khaling, ATREE, OPIs, and the entire team for the successful completion of this project. The project supported 5 PhD scholars, 3 from Sikkim University and 2 from ATREE, of which 1 scholar is already awarded. Also, the project supported MSc dissertation projects for more than 30 master's students of our university. Including these studies, the project team has already published several national and international publications and popular articles. Another important aspect of this project was that it involved capacity building of local people, students and researchers, for continuing the biodiversity monitoring and protection of these landscapes in the region. Additionally, a biodiversity portal for Sikkim Darjeeling and policies for conservation of biodiversity and socio-ecological landscape has been developed by the project team. I'm happy that project team has organized this cluster workshop, although it is online, involving experts from different parts of the country and abroad. I'm very happy to know that renowned scientist and my great friend, Dr. Eklabya Sharma, former Deputy Director General, ICIMOD Nepal, is delivering the keynote address today on the aspect of biodiversity conservation outside protected areas in the Himalayas. Additionally, the seminar will witness 3 plenary lectures and 9 special presentations by the experts from India, Himalayan and Western Ghats, Nepal, United Kingdom, Japan, Australia, along with presentations by the NMHS project team from Sikkim University and ATREE. I thank all the esteemed speakers and hope the presentations by the experts and discussions during the seminar lead to a way for policy formulation for conservation of biodiversity in the Himalayas. I wish all the best and success for this international event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your encouraging words and for also telling the audience here about the achievements of the project. And thank you so much for all the cooperation and the collaboration, especially personally from ATREE. I would like to thank the collaboration and cooperation that we've got from Sikkim University. With this, we come to the end of the inaugural session. And for the next 5-10 minutes, I would like to request my colleague, Dr. Sunita Pradhan, to announce the vote of thanks. Thank you.
A very good afternoon to everyone. I'm honored to propose this vote of thanks to all present here today for sparing your extremely valuable time to participate in this inaugural session as speakers, guests, audience, and as organizers and sponsors, making this seminar and this inaugural session possible. On behalf of the entire team of this NMHS project in discussion, I would begin with profusely thanking the chief guest, Professor Avinash Khare, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sikkim University, for addressing the section. Your presence and valuable words lend encouragement to the entire academic fraternity. Thank you very much, sir. Keynote speaker, Dr. Eklabya Sharma, former DDG ICIMOD, who is dedicated to serving the mountains, is abundantly thanked for consenting to be here today and for his enlightening keynote lecture, and also for being always there for advice and guidance. He said that we could count on him. The NMHS team here extends their gratitude to Engineer Kireet Kumar, Director GBPNIHE and Nodal Officer NMHS Almora. This seminar is, as we already know, is a part of the project Key Ecosystem Services and Biodiversity Components in the socio-ecological landscapes of Darjeeling, Sikkim, Himalaya, deriving management and policy inputs and developing mountain biodiversity information system, which was funded by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, through GBPNIHE Institute of Himalayan Environment, as part of the National Mission on Himalayan Studies, NMHS. In this context, Engineer Kireet Kumar, sir, is profusely thanked for his support throughout the project period, being always accessible for phone calls, providing advice and guidance to make this project a successful possibility. Professor N. Sathyanarayana, Dean of Life Science, Sikkim University, thank you very much for your inaugural address and also for the unflinching support you have lent the project. With this, I extend the gratitude of the team to the Registrar, Sikkim University, Sri KVS Rao, Dr. Sri Ram, a librarian, Sikkim University, Dr. Kabita Lama, Dean of Languages and Literature, Sikkim University, Professor Niladri Bagh, Head, Department of Horticulture, Sikkim University, Sri Bhuvan Prakash Pradhan, Secretary, Science and Technology Department, Government of Sikkim, for your participation and extended to the project. Finally, the audience, students, teachers, media, and all others who attended and is attending these sessions are thanked. I can see Professor Ram Chaudhary, Dr. Ram Pandit, Dr. Ganeshan, Dr. Lilanath Sharma, Dr. Shalini Dhyani. Thank you all for being here. Dr. Bhoj and Dr. Sarala Khaling, PIs of this project, and the entire team has worked very hard to put this seminar together and are thanked and acknowledged. This inaugural session was has perfectly set the stage for the upcoming technical sessions. Thank you once again for inaugurating this seminar with so much valuable information, knowledge, good energy, and warmth. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Sunita. So with this, we end the inaugural session of the seminar. We are really very much on time. And we are going to now take a 15 minutes break, and we will begin with the technical session 1 at 12:30 sharp. The technical session 1 is biodiversity beyond protected areas, new perspectives for conservation. And this will be chaired by Dr. Eklabya Sharma, who was also the keynote speaker today and is the former DDG ICIMOD and former VC of ATREE School of Advanced Studies. So with that, we will break for 15 minutes. And I would request everyone to please come into the meeting at 12:30 sharp, where we will begin with very